Hello and welcome to the channel. In this video I'd like to share 3 upgrades that you can make that greatly improve the performance of this truck, the GMade GS02F. But first of all, a confession. If you've watched any of the previous videos about this truck on my channel, you may realise that this one started off life as a bomb. And the bomb is noticeable for the fantastic scale body with the cage at the rear and also the cantilever rear suspension. I got rid of that suspension. It was too problematic and flopped over all over the place. No good on the trails. And I converted my truck to a Komodo, which has a shell more like a Ford F-150 and a conventional rear suspension. That's not one of my tips for an upgrade, but the first one of them is this one. The standard servo arm on the GS02F is made of plastic and it's not very strong, and without too much effort it will end up stripping. So I strongly suggest that you replace it with an aluminium one. This is a very basic aluminium horn. It cost me about £5, but it's more than strong enough for the steering on the GS02F. The key dimension you're looking for is around 20 millimeters between the center of the servo and the pivot point here. Another thing to look out for when you're changing the servo arm is to check the length of the servo linkage. As you can see, I've had to extend this a little bit and added some washers here to take up the slack. This means that the wheels are perfectly center aligned when the servo is aligned to the center as well, and that means that you can get full lock left and right without clashing into either the panhard support or, on the other side, the motor mount. My second tip is to change the wheel hexes to GMade's optional 8mm thick ones. They're made out of aluminium, so don't add that much extra weight, but one of the issues with the GS02F is that the standard axles have a very long portion that isn't threaded, and that means that with a lot of wheels you can't actually get the wheel nuts down tight enough to hold the wheel securely. So not only is this a really good upgrade for actually getting a wider range of wheels to fit, it widens the truck by about 3mm on each side, which is always good for performance. And my third and final tip, and the one that's going to make the most difference to the performance of the truck, is to change the springs. The standard GMade springs are very stiff, and that means that the suspension barely soaks up any of the bumps that you take it over. I switched over to some Element RC springs. These are the blue ones on the front, and on the rear I've got the grey ones. As you can see, they're quite a lot softer because they've got more coils. This is a really good setup for me so far. It means that the truck's suspension absorbs all of the bumps, and as a result it's much more stable and much better to drive either crawling or trailing. I went to an event called the Southern Scale Trail and had a really difficult time with this truck because it wanted to roll over at every opportunity. Changing the springs to the softer ones like this has dramatically improved that, and I'd strongly recommend that anyone using this truck does the same thing. An extra benefit of changing to softer springs is that the dampers, which out of the box don't seem to be very good, actually work pretty well after all, because they're not fighting against such a stiff spring. So I hope this video has been useful, and if you've got any other questions or comments about the GMade GS02F, let me know below. Thanks for watching.